deciding your priorities. So you have to figure out between the three areas of life, personal, family, and business, what is the most important. And not that one of those three areas is more important than the other. I mean, it could be, but it doesn't have to be. But you have to decide in each of those areas what's the most important. Defining the tasks that will get you closer to accomplishing your priorities and prioritizing your tasks. So I found that my priorities were, three things that most of us have priorities in: my family, self-care, which was something that took much longer for me than I've found young mothers today are doing, because they were taught it a little bit better, I think, than in my childhood. Things have changed for the better, and I'm so happy about that. And then business. So those are my three main areas. I feel like a lot of that is fitting for people in general. Business could be your job, could be your side hustle. It could be even, just, well, I want to say hobby, but hobby kind of goes more under self-care and self-enjoyment. But some people use their hobbies and turn it into a business. So it could be that as well. And then making lists and figuring out all the things that you want to do, but you have to pick one thing to start with. You can't do all the things at the same time.
Today we are here because I decided to create a space for other online business moms to come and share what they think it's important for a business mom to grow their business, but also to be present for her kids, for her family, or hobbies. So this is why we are here today with my friend LaraGeorgine. She's my biz bestie. So welcome, Lara. Please introduce yourself and tell us what you are going to teach us today.
Thank you, Nina. My name is LaraGeorgine. I am, well, this is part of my presentation as well, but I'm a mom, and I also am what I define as a mompreneur. So entrepreneur that includes motherhood. And I help other mompreneurs kind of manage the priorities and the workloads and the tasks so that they can feel more confident in building their business and feel less guilt while they're parenting. So I help moms setting themselves up for success, which is kind of, the starting point when you're trying to do everything. You're trying to juggle all the balls, because we go in, we have babies, and all of a sudden your world goes from me to we. And it's nothing that anybody really trains us for anywhere in life or in school, is to transition from you being the center of your universe, the main character in your book or your movie, however you would like to phrase that, to, there's someone else who is there 24/7 that needs your time and attention. And sometimes some of us can get lost in that journey. So I like to start my presentations with quotes because, as some people know, I am someone who likes to yell inspirational quotes instead of just yelling. That way there's some sort of benefit somewhere in there. So the question isn't who's going to let me, it's who's going to stop me. And really the only one who's ever going to stop you is yourself. Quick introduction to me. I'm LaraGeorgine. I'm a mother of 4. I'm a former 9-to-5er. The way that ended is kind of interesting. It's a story sometimes I tell. We'll see if it comes out today. I turned freelancer and then a mompreneur, and I love to have fun and be goofy and silly and do all the things that my kids are doing. One of my favorite things to do with well, now that they're all a little bit older with the kids, is play laser tag and just run around in the dark. It's so much fun. And I loathe being given a hard time, which I have teenagers, so I get a hard time a lot. But, it's all in fun, I guess. So I personally wanted to start doing things beyond the invisible workload and my old 9-to-5 without feeling mom guilt. But I had a hard time articulating what I wanted and what I needed to do first to even get started. So I had the ideas, I had the emotions and the feelings of how I would like to go out into the world and present myself, and where I would like to experiment and learn and grow, and who I wanted to do that with. But I didn't know how to say it at first. And I feel like oftentimes for mothers, it's something that happens because we go from a very articulate place, and all of a sudden we have 100 more things going on in our heads than what we've ever had before. So it changes how we think and how we speak. So I decided that I needed to, and this is pretty articulate for me. This would not have been something 15 years ago that I would have been able to say, but manage modern motherhood by defining boundaries and creating simple goal-oriented schedules I could stick to. Because I like my goals, they drive me, as many people do. They are my motivation in a way. Also, my kids are motivators. Can't forget them. But having schedules is harder as a mom, I found, because your kids get sick, that's your sick day and their sick day. And managing that takes some time to really figure out, but it changes each season. Each time they get to a new point themselves, your children get to a new point, you have to change for that point. And it always happens when you think you have it all down, it all changes, just like that, which is normal. Motherhood changed my perspective and my priorities. I found it hard to do what I dreamed of doing in my free time. And the kids were there relying on me every day, all day. So I had to reconsider. I didn't cook until I was in my 30s. My husband did the food shopping and the cooking. And all of a sudden, I had to learn how to do it. And I had to plan for other people to eat on a schedule, which was a change. I didn't have a schedule like that before. And, as they age and grow, it got easier, and, they ate more interesting foods and wanted to try other things. But it was hard for me to fit myself into those learning how to cook, feeding schedules. They're, going back to when they were little, there was the nap schedules, and everyone's like, oh, you can do all these things when they're napping. But sometimes we get overwhelmed with all the things that we could be doing that we can't pick one to focus on and move forward with. Some of us can. I'm going to be honest, I could not. I had a very hard time just being like, oh, I can do something. But the internet and the possibilities and abilities that we have today are not what they were back then. I mean, Instagram came out after I had my second child. So, things are different, and that's great. But that was my experience, and I had to learn in a different way that still applies to modern motherhood today, the women who are having their children right now. As a classically trained artist, and I was in illustration. I used to do surface pattern design. It was very hard for me to have my art materials out with small children, because what do kids like to do? Make art. So it was hard to find time to do the things that I really enjoyed in my again, free time, nap time, after bedtime, things like that, because I had to bring it all out and put it all away in a short amount of time. And I, just didn't get there every day. But what I found over time, the most important thing to setting yourself up for success comes down to deciding your priorities. So you have to figure out, between the three areas of life, personal, family, and business, what is the most important. And not that one of those three areas is more important than the other. I mean, it could be, but it doesn't have to be. But you have to decide in each of those areas what's the most important. Defining the tasks that will get you closer to accomplishing your priorities, and prioritizing your tasks. So I found that my priorities were, three things that most of us have priorities in: my family, self-care, which was something that took much longer for me than I've found young mothers today are doing, because they were taught it a little bit better, I think, than in my childhood. Things have changed for the better, and I'm so happy about that. And then business. So those are my three main areas. I feel like a lot of that is fitting for people in general. Business could be your job, could be your side hustle. It could be even, just, well, I want to say hobby, but hobby kind of goes more under self-care and self-enjoyment. But some people use their hobbies and turn it into a business. So it could be that as well. And then making lists and figuring out all the things that you want to do, but you have to pick one thing to start with. You can't do all the things at the same time. And while I know we can technically multitask, it's not really multitasking. So I myself will do certain tasks with music on. And so technically it's multitasking because I'm listening to something or listening to a podcast, but I have to rewind a lot because I am thinking over what I'm listening while I'm doing. So it depends on how much takeaway you want in the two things that you're going to combine. Defining those tasks will get you closer to accomplishing your priorities because once you can see it and define it and look at it and break it down into steps, you can prioritize it and you can really make it work within your schedule. So I always love to go with my top tips, and I know that everyone hears top tips all the time and they all sound the same or could even be the same, but they're top tips for a reason because they do actually work when you put them into your plan and into your schedule and into your life, and you do them for the 21 days and then it becomes part of your day, and it's really quite amazing. So time blocking, I had a hard time with this myself, to be honest, when I was a younger mother, because I was just like, oh, well, we'll go with the flow. We'll see how it works, And yes, you can do that, but there is a point when you have to block out, like, okay, I really need this time, which, you have to be honest with yourself. I think I just had a hard time being honest about time for a long time. That was a lot of time. Sorry, I have fun with words like that in my brain, and sometimes I can just tangent. Sometimes we just have to turn work off. So I worked in a time, Blackberries, anybody remember those? But I worked in a time when BlackBerry and everybody thought you had to be on 24/7, and it continued way too far into my life where people thought that I should be available to them for work all the time. But you need to set times when work is off. So I don't care if you're a freelancer, if you own your own business, or you work for somebody else, you need to set boundaries on your time. And there needs to be a time when you are turned off at work so that you can be present with your kids, with your family, with yourself, even because I catch myself even on my personal time where I'm stuck in work brain, which, I have to work at removing myself from it. Do not permit overflow into your time. Each person and each thing gets what they need, and it's not always going to be fair, but it works. Group similar tasks together and tackle them in dedicated time blocks. Pure and simple time blocking. I have come to find that unless it's on my calendar, it's not real. It won't happen if it's not set in a time block on my calendar. Use your color coding if that's what you enjoy. If not, then just make sure it's on a calendar so that you know that it's there. It's real to you and it's real to anyone you share your calendar with. I share my calendar with my entire family, and I have a work calendar that kind of flows into it. And so things get blocked, and work knows, and I say work, it's my clients know that these are the hours that I'm available. And even when it's asynchronous, they know that the time blocks are still there each day of the week when they can reach me. It's kind of like having office hours if you're a professor, right? Do one thing you know you need to do, but don't want to first every day, which is the most confidence boosting thing. I was so good at procrastinating with the things that I say was, I kind of still am, but I am human and this happens. So, but if you do that one thing that you really don't want to do first, the rest of your day feels so free and merry, and you watch the squirrels and the birds, and it's all good because you got that frustrating thing, the thing that you're dreading, the thing that the phone call you don't want to do. Where most of the time it only takes 5-10 minutes, most of the time. There are other tasks that we have that will take much longer. I have a task that will take much longer, but I started it yesterday morning, and I will tell you, at dinner, I was so proud of myself, and I shared with the whole family that I got the paperwork done, and it was really silly, but it felt good, and it was nice to share. And they were like, okay, well done. And, didn't mean much to them, but my confidence went through the roof in that moment. So just do that one thing each day. Make it the first thing that you're going to do, and the rest of your day will feel so joyful. Just try it. And delegate and ask for specific help. And I said specific in all caps and underlined and italicized for all the reasons that specific is right. You need to ask specific help for the specific help, because people don't know. Your children won't know, your spouse won't know, your coworkers won't know, your employees won't know, your boss won't know, whomever it is, your family won't know what you're actually asking for if you ever have to say, you know what I mean? And I will say that I have worked with many clients that have said, you know what I mean? And I said, no, you don't. And they had to be more specific, or else they wouldn't get what they wanted. So if you're not specific, you're not going to get what you want. If you have to imagine you're describing each task to someone between 3 and 5, and not to insult or put anybody down. It's just that when you are specific, they know what, I hate to use this word, but what your expectations are. I have shared family responsibilities in the household with different children, and each person has a responsibility to do on the weekend. But I discovered that one of them was doing not what I thought they were supposed to be doing. And it was my fault because I wasn't specific enough, and I didn't tell them that they needed to do step 1, 2, 3 so that they were more successful in the job. And once they learned that this past weekend, they did it, and they were like, oh, that was actually faster than anything I had ever done for this task before. It was cleaning the bathrooms, but but it was faster and more efficient and more effective. And they're not going to know unless you teach them, because they're not going to go look up how to clean the bathrooms on YouTube. But this goes with, SOPs in business. There's a reason why standard operating procedures are there and outlined. It's because people don't know what the expectations are unless you are specific. And sometimes, should add a indented bullet point for this, but sometimes you can only ask specific people for specific things. Not everybody is great at everything. So I can ask my husband to go grocery shopping, but I can't ask my 13-year-old to. He can't get there. You have to be specific in who you're asking. And that goes with, freelancers and consultants and different people that you hire, as well as that you have to find the right person. Not everybody has all the skills. Learning to say no is a big one. You can learn how to say the nice no, the no, the mean no, however you want to say no, but you need to learn to say no to activities that do not align with your priorities. I had a very hard time as a people pleaser saying no. I had a very hard time not being like, yeah, sure, I can fit that in, because I had a hard time recognizing that time was very limited. But it is limited. And if you say yes to everyone, then you're saying no to something else. You're saying no to something for yourself. And that is why you don't get to do the things that you want to do sometimes, or take care of yourself in a more meaningful way. So it's time to recognize your limits, become comfortable with saying no to commitments that don't align with your priorities. Got to go back to your lists with your top 3. If the actions you are saying yes to don't align with those things that you've outlined and the tasks that you've made underneath it, why are you doing that? I said yes to so many things that did not align with what I wanted, but it really made other people happy. And that was great. And I felt good about them being happy. But the second I said no, the way that the relationship changed, I was like, but I needed the time for something for me and my family. I'm allowed to say no. This is extra. It didn't align with what I needed to do. And always prioritize quality over quantity. I know we've all heard it. This goes for engagements, relationships in both your personal and your professional life. You know, I could spend hours on end with my kids, but if I'm just going, uh-huh, 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 with them, it's not quality time. They're just going to know me as a, uh-huh, sure, whatever. And they're going to respond that way. I read a thing recently that said, and this one killed me, but I read this thing that said, the way your children treat you when you're older is a reflection of how you treated them. So that one hit and hard, but it goes for both your family and your professional acquaintances and people that you know in life that, you know, the way, as we all know, the way that you're being treated is a reflection of how you allow people to treat you. So prioritize the quality. Quantity is great, but there is time that you need for yourself to recalibrate so that you can be better and of more quality. And that will go for work and with your children as well and your spouse. So that brings me to an offer I have for everyone, which is, I say calendars and checklists, but this is mostly a checklist that you can put into your calendar. It's my daily 3x3 checklist. It's my 3-part framework that kind of gets you just outlined with your non-negotiables. It's your personal, your family, and your business. You can put them in any order you want and decide which thing you want to do first. But it's about setting realistic goals so that you can get things accomplished and create consistency, because it is required to be consistent to achieving your goals. Most important of all, of course, is to be patient with yourself, your business, and your family. It's often easier said than done, but patience and grace are your best friends now and forever. And even back when you didn't think about it, it was very important. And, you know, every so often it's really important to review and adjust what's going on with you while you're planning your schedules and managing your time and your tasks. So conduct regular reviews of your schedule and your task priorities, literally just the same thing, just priorities based on changing circumstances or evolving business needs or family needs. Your kids, those first few years, it's like they're a whole new person every 6 months and you have to change. And that's where I was like, oh, I could be like water and I'll just go with the flow. But yes, to a point with other boundaries in place. And but so that's where you need to be flexible and open to reorganizing your tasks as needed. Thank you again, Nina, for having me and letting me kind of wax on about planning time and managing, you know, personal work and family life. So, and anyone, if they would like to do a screenshot of this, there is the Mom's Priority Checklist again. And if anyone's interested in working together or having a quick call or chat about how they'd like to organize, you can apply to work with me there on the bottom link where it says work together.
I really want to thank you for this presentation because it brought me so many memories. I mean, I remember when the kids were younger, and as you said, they were napping, but I was thinking like, what should I do next? Should I work? Should I cook? Should I clean? Should I rest? Like there was always this question, not knowing what to do first. And then when I had my second kid, one was napping, the other one was awake, and you couldn't do basically nothing. But I enjoyed my time with my kids. I was a stay-at-home mom for more than 5 years. It was my choice. But then again, when I started, as you said, I couldn't articulate what I want to do next. All I knew was that I want to work with business moms, but I had no idea what I could do for them, how I could serve them. I had no idea. But it takes some commitment, some courage to get started, and then you will figure out a way.
I mean, I feel like so many moms feel like they're alone in those emotions and those feelings. And it's so important to know that it's not just you and it's not wrong and it's not bad. It's just how it is. We weren't prepared
Mhm.
for any of those things. No one taught us. And even when they thought they were teaching us, it wasn't exactly, and I say they, whoever it is in your life that's like, oh, I have this great advice. It's, yes, and that works for their situation. So you have to take everything and kind of like say, well, how does it work in my life? Because, I was raised by a single parent, so it was much different. And like when I reflect back, I was like, well, how did my mom do it? And, she worked 9 to 5. She was a single parent of 3, and it was just very different. I didn't have a mentor or training that would align with how my life is set up. So, it's important to find people that do align with you, your goals and your aspirations. And part of it is articulating it.
Absolutely, yes. And also for me, learning to say no was also a big one because, as you said, I was willing to say yes to everyone and everything. And then I was feeling overwhelmed and did not know why. But I was trying to help them, it's true, but I was not helping myself. Thank you so much.
Oh, I was
Oh,
just going to agree with you totally. I've signed up for so many things where I'm like, why did I do that? And it wasn't bad. It was great for the experience, and I'm glad I did it now. But I'm also like, oh, well, I could have articulated myself better and figured it out. Lessons
okay.
learned. But thank
And
you.
I thank you. And let's wrap up with who's gonna stop you? I mean, the quote you shared, who's gonna stop us? We are here to make our dreams come true. So let's come and work together.